So I'm Melissa Peterson, and I am going to start this presentation on how to follow through with your health. So give me a second to share screen. Okay. So we'll make sure. Yep, it looks like we're sharing. Okay. So this presentation is on how to actually follow through in your health. The Becoming Method is my coaching company, and on how to follow through with your health is the first principle is that you don't have a discipline problem. You have a follow through problem. So we're going to solve today the real problem that keeps most people stuck. People are, keep them from not starting. They don't know what they're doing, but we want to show people how to follow through. Because if we're being honest, most people actually already know what to do to be healthy. They just don't do it consistently. And that's what we're going to try to fix. So, sorry, you don't have a discipline problem. You have a follow through problem. And this is where most people get things wrong. They, they think that they need more discipline or more willpower, but if that was true, then everyone would have results. Because you've had discipline before. You've had days, maybe even weeks or months or even years where you've been locked in. And so the issue is not in your ability, the issue is follow through. And going to the next slide. So everybody starts strong. You start strong. You have energy. You feel motivated. You make a plan, and you feel very clear when you start. And in that moment, you believe this time is going to be different. But then something shifts and you don't finish. And this is what we need to understand. So there's a pattern here. So this is the cycle that most people are stuck in. So people will start, they'll have motivation, they'll put effort into play, and then life happens. And then, they stop and then they have to restart again if they're going to start again. And then people are like, why can't I not just stick with this? But this is not random. This is a learned behavioral pattern. So that takes us to the next slide. We have a habit loop. We have the cue, the behavior, and the reward. So this is how your brain actually works in this habit loop. So something will trigger you, that's the cue. And the behavior is you take action and then you get a result. And the result is a reward, and it's usually relief. So for example, you feel stressed. That's your cue. You eat or you avoid something. That's the behavior. And you feel good temporarily. That's the reward. And then your brain learns, hey, that worked. So I'm going to do that again. And so then the next time, the same thing happens, although automatically. This is why you don't need discipline. You need to understand your patterns. So motivation is emotional. Motivation, it means that your motivation is based on how you feel. And your feelings change constantly due to stress, sleep, hormones, your day, whatever happened. And so if your system depends on motivation, your results are always going to fluctuate because emotions also change constantly. if you rely on motivation, um, if your strategy is, I'll do it when I feel like it, you're always going to restart because you will not always feel like it. So relief versus results. This is one of the most important concepts to understand is your brain is constantly choosing between discomfort and relief. So basically, an example of this is this. You work out and that's discomfort now. If you skip it though, you get relief now. So then you start avoiding working out. Another example is eating clean. It requires effort. But if you eat comfort food, that gives you relief. So then your brain chooses relief and you stop eating clean. This is not a weakness. This is biology. So we have to stop relying on motivation to move us forward, and we need to build systems. Willpower is limited. You actually don't have unlimited willpower. In fact, I think there's a statistic that says that you have about 3 minutes of willpower a day. And this is where people burn out and they try to push through everything and eventually they just can't do it. So then you get decision fatigue because you have to try to do all these things and pick all these things and make a lot of decisions. Decision fatigue is real. Think of your decision making like a battery. More in the morning, you're full, but in the evening, you're drained. So the more decisions that you make, like what do I eat? What do I do? What shouldn't I do? The harder that it becomes through later in the day as you lose energy. So this is why people are good all day, but they struggle at night because they eventually run out of energy because they're making a lot of decisions every day. Your life reflects your identity. So another thing besides some of the decisions and the motivation and things that we were talking about with your brain, that your brain tries to do the easier things. But one of the other things is you have an identity about yourself. And this is where everything shifts. Your life reflects your identity. It's not what you want. It's it's not what you say. You actually just believe who you are. And you're going to do things based on who you are. So then we have the identity loop, and this is how identity works. So we have identity, actions, results, and then identity. So if you believe I'm inconsistent, and then you start making inconsistent actions. And then those actions produce results that confirm your belief that you're inconsistent. Then that continues your identity. And so you're in a loop that you're never going to get out of. So you're always going to go back to that same identity, have the same actions and the same results. And this is why we don't start with behavior when we're trying to make change. We start with our identity. Another issue is emotional patterns. So it's not just behavior, it's emotions. Your emotions drive your actions more than logic does. So we have an emotional loop that we go over. And this is the real pattern that most people are stuck in. So we have stress. So then we want to avoid something, so we quit. And then we have shame about it, and then we restart again. So maybe you feel overwhelmed about something. And so then you start to avoid it. You quit, you feel bad, and you promise you're going to restart later. And every time you repeat this, you reinforce this in your brain. You reinforce pathways in your brain to do this. And and sometimes maybe you'll get to the point where you don't even restart because it's not even worth doing. Your nervous system drives consistency. And this is a big one. Your nervous system determines whether or not that you follow through. So in your nervous system, this is a diagram. You're in one of two states. You're either regulated, where you're calm, focused, and able to act, and then you're following through, or you become dysregulated when you're overwhelmed, avoidant, or reactive. So when you're overwhelmed, your brain is not focused on your goals. Your brain is focused on survival and relief. This is why you don't need more pressure. You need regulation. We have to get to the point where we can regulate ourselves. So that takes us to all or nothing thinking. One of the ways that we can become dysregulated is to use all or nothing thinking. And this is one of the biggest reasons why people start and have to restart, because they're like, well, I just ate a bite of food that I wasn't planning on eating, so I may as well eat the whole thing. Rather than just saying, well, I took a bite, I'm just going to be okay with that and walk away. But it causes us to have to restart, and that's very frustrating. Another thing is we have a thought loop. So we have a thought, and your thought will cause you to have an emotion, and then you act based on those emotions. So for example, your thought is, wow, I messed up. You start to feel discouraged, and then your action is you just quit. So it's not the mistake that stops you. It's the thought about the mistake that stops you. So then we get to, how can we change without motivation? And that's where the becoming method comes in. And in the becoming method, we move from understanding to change. So the first step would be, well, we need to decide who you are. Are you a person that just doesn't follow through? Or are you a person, who has the ability, who has skills, and you're a capable person. So we're not going to start with behavior. We're going to start with, how do you see yourself and who are you becoming? The second step is we're going to have non-negotiables. They're going to be small, clear, and daily things that you do. And we're going to focus on not being perfect. We're going to focus on being consistent. So we're going to develop habits that are small, clear, and everyday, and they're going to be consistent. So if you miss something, we don't have to go crazy and just, throw everything out, throw the baby out in the bathwater. We can just, be where we're at. The third step is we're going to learn how to regulate ourselves rather than react. And we learn skills to regulate. So pausing, breathing, choosing, that's one way that you can interrupt a pattern so that you can stay consistent and stay on track. And we will learn skills like that. Another thing is we're going to follow through imperfectly. So done counts, perfect doesn't. So we're just going to change our mindset that it's okay to be imperfect. Step 5, we're going to build evidence daily. So everything that you do is going to create proof that you have the ability to follow through with your new identity and skills. And that proof will shift who you believe you are. So then we go into identity reinforcement. So here's how it's going to actually happen. You're going to have action that's going to lead to evidence and then a change in your identity. So you're going to take an action. From that action, it's going to give you proof. And then you're going to see that proof and you're going to start seeing yourself differently. Like, I'm a person who can breathe when I feel stressed. And this is how you're going to become somebody new. So you don't need a new plan. You actually just need a new identity. You're going to become the person who finishes what you start. This is the shift because you become that person who follows through. And so if you would like to do that, you can book a free call with me where we will take some time, we'll figure out what your goals are, and we will build a plan that will help you be successful in your health. And so that's my email and phone number. But if you don't have time to take that down, I will send you an email with this recording. And you can book a call with me. It's free, there's no obligations. Where we could just kind of identify what's going on and what we could possibly do to correct that. So let's stop starting over and make the changes that we need to, because this is exactly what I do. I'm not going to just tell you what to do, but I'm going to help you figure out how to follow through and do this consistently in a way that works in your life. So stop starting over, book a call, and we will build your plan. And so that is the end of the presentation. Do you have any questions? Well, thank you for being here, and I will send the recording. And if you do have questions, feel free to ask, or if you would like to book that free call, please do so. Thank you so much.